Hey, it's Charlotte from the Writable, back with another writing question. And today's question is I don't know what the point of my story is or what it says. It seems like just a bunch of stuff that happens. It started out with a really great idea, but I lost track somewhere along the way. How do I, it kind of cuts off there, but how do I get it back? Okay, yeah. So I think this is a super question because I talk all the time about know what the point of your story is, know what your story says, know, why are you writing this thing? Where is it going? Um, I talk about that all the time, and I think it's so useful to have that information, but it's not always required. Um, and for a very long time, I was like a full blown pantser. So like when I was a kid, my favorite thing was I would go sit on the swing out back and I would write and I would just go wherever the story took me. But the truth is it did start to meander. It did start to be like just a bunch of stuff that happens. And there's benefits to that as well because we're getting to explore the story. We're getting to go places that we never imagined. We get to follow inspiration totally 100%. But I do appreciate getting to a point where you're maybe, 25, 50% of the way into this story and saying, I'm at a dead end. I'm lost. I don't know what to do. And the fantastic thing is that at any point, we can stop, we can step back, we can have a look at this story as a whole and decide where we think it is going to go. We can all of a sudden create a direction for ourselves at any point in the writing process and aim there. It's like getting in the car and just driving and not knowing where you're going to end up, and then at some point deciding, hey, I want to go here, and then you just aim there. Sorry. so you're driving in the car, you're like, "Oh, I'm just driving around, no particular direction." Then you decide like, hey, I'm hungry, I'm gonna go to McDonald's, or maybe a healthier choice. um, and you just angle yourself there, and you figure out from wherever you're at how you need to get there. And the beautiful thing about a story is that no matter no matter what, you can change anything up until that book is published and physically printed in a reader's hand. You can change anything about that story. So there's a couple of ideas here, and I'm not sure which the 100% right one is going to be for you, but there are a few things that I will do. And the first one is I might go back a scene or two and just read. And I'm not really just like looking to like get myself back in the flow of the story and figure out where I need to go next. What I'm actually doing is I am getting into the flow of the story, but I'm looking for the place where things feel like they start to go off the rails, because it's usually not the point where you get stuck where the block is actually starting from. It is usually, in my experience, a scene or two ahead of that where you're starting to set something up. You probably got a little bit afraid and you just sort of like clenched down on something, and all of a sudden the story wasn't flowing the way that it should. It just wasn't coming out as freely and as easily. Um, so I again will step back in the story a scene or two, sometimes even further than that, and I'll read it and I'll look for the place where again it just starts to feel like a little bit icky, it starts to feel a little bit off. I can just feel that the story flow is not there. And I will actually go back to that point, like erase everything after that or stick it in a save folder somewhere and start again from there, right? Just reconnect in, figure out if there's something that you really wanted to do here or a better idea, and try again, right? You can always just try again and see if you can find a better path through the muck. If I find that that really isn't working, I go way back. I back out of that story totally. It's like 10,000 foot view. I zoom out and I'm looking at the story as a whole. And what I'm really trying to do is I'm trying to remind myself of what it was that initially excited me about this story. And sometimes that's a really like obvious process. Sometimes it's right there. And sometimes it's honestly like I have to go in and now I'm at the point, especially if I've been, just sort of intuitively following my way through the story, I might get to the point where I have to actually go back and do some development work. Maybe I do need to dig deeper into the character. I need to dig deeper into the world. I need to dig deeper into like the antagonist or the main story problem. I need to dig into all of those things. Generally, I think if we're having trouble moving forward on an idea, it's just because there's something that we don't know about the story mechanics. There's something we don't know, again, about a character or a world or a plot, or we don't understand some of the backstory pieces, some of the deep pieces that are there. And that's okay. We can always go in and find those pieces at any time. So that may be something to look at too. And I am going to recommend the writer's block training. It's super cheap. I think like $7, and it has a list of questions for you to ask yourself to actually go go through this process and identify essentially the information that you might not know, you might not have found before you started writing the story, or if you just sort of jumped in and started writing it, just the information that maybe you need to know right now to give you more guidance. And I will say for me, that always reignites the spark in me when I have better understanding of the story and better understanding of what it is that the story says, just because I've gone through and I've looked at, I've really sort of broken it down piece by piece and looked at individual elements to find more information. I find it reconnects me with the story, it reinvigorates me, and I'm just so excited to get going again now that I have even more clarity around the story.